There you go. Yvette Mitchell. Oh, Melody's back. Um, you did catch on that said I was Presbyterian. I was raised that way, yes. And you apparently got up all in your feels about that now too. Okay, she writes, the fact that you left the Presbyterian church, comma, you never were one. You were never a devout Presbyterian. You're just an atheist who claims you were every religion. And then the last part of that, go back and see it because it's cut off. That makes no sense at all. But let's go over this. The fact that you left the Presbyterian church, you never were one. Duh. You were never a devout Presbyterian. Double derp, 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 derp. Nobody asked me if I wanted to be a Presbyterian. I was a baby and they took me to the church. My mother was a soprano soloist there. She was a professional musician. My father was a deacon. Nobody asked me if I wanted to be baptized. They do infant baptism. And the real problem arose that my mother was also a teacher. She was a very smart woman. She had a master's degree. And she always taught me that if you read something, she was very big on reading, you should ask questions. You should try to understand what you read and then come to a full understanding of the text. I did that in school and did really well. I was an honor student. I did that in church and I got in trouble again and again and again. People would say, "Oh, you're lacking faith. It's a matter of faith," which I was like, in second grade, that means like you don't know the freaking answer, lady. My mother was a very wise woman. And when I came to her once with a question about Genesis, I told her I had a question and we had to go in her bedroom. And she said, okay. I said, you need to lock the door. And then she was really worried because that was the only door that locked in our house aside from the bathroom. And she did lock the door because I didn't want my father coming in, because I knew if he heard me asking this question, I would be in trouble. And I said, in Sunday school today, we learned about Adam and Eve. Okay. I said, Adam and Eve have Cain and Abel. Yeah. Cain killed Abel. Yep. I said, and God was very angry at him for doing that. Yep. And I said, he was banished to the land of Nod. Yeah. I said, the land of Nod is another city. Yeah. And I looked at her and I said, where did the other people come from? And my mother, a devout Christian woman, also very educated, sat there for a second and gave me the best answer she could possibly give me. And she looked at me and said, I don't know. And we discussed it for a little, thinking possibly it was an analogy. Adam and Eve were analogies for all men and all women because you don't just suddenly get another city. But that's the type of teacher my mother was. Maybe you could take a lesson from her. Stop trolling strangers on the internet because you don't like a storybook for children that they read at night. Stop trolling day after day after day and looking sillier and sillier and sillier. And maybe start putting some of the actual teachings of Christ into your daily life, because the comments you've made about African American people and things like that are absolutely horrendous. And what would Jesus do? I think he'd backhand you. I'd be very disappointed that you were claiming to be one of his followers.